Welcome and thank you for joining us for this lesson in Texas Air Mission's Missionary, Airframe, and Powerplant School online training video series. Learn more about our mission at flymaps.org. Subscribe to our channel now to get all of our future training videos.
Welcome, aviators. Welcome to Texas Air Mission's Missionary, Airframe, and Powerplant School. Today's pilot ground school lesson is 3.2, which is for taxiway markings and signs. There's going to be some signs you'll see as you're taxiing around the airport. This builds on what we talked about in lesson 3.1. So if you haven't followed or completed lesson 3.1, you should probably go do that first, because we're going to be talking about some things like ILS critical areas, hold short lines, movement, non-movement areas, those things that we brought up and discussed in 3.1. And today we're just going to be talking about some of the signs that you're going to see as you're approaching those areas as you're taxiing around the airport. You may notice that I'm in my office instead of in front of the class. Unfortunately, during the live class, the camera had some technical difficulties and decided to stop recording. So I'm going to re-record lesson 3.2, and you guys can just follow along on the handout instead of live in the classroom with the PowerPoint. So without further ado, let's get started on 3.2 taxiway markings. Okay, so before we get started on our lesson, I want to show you guys something here. If you go to the comments section, you'll get a link to our website, and that website is going to send you to, or is going to allow you to find the page with a handout that you need to follow along with this lesson. So if you go to the website flymaps.org, scroll down here to ground school lessons, and you can see we started here with chapter 3. Chapter 1 and 2 are not recorded. We didn't record those. We only started recording for our channel, YouTube channel, and starting with chapter 3. So today we're covering lesson 3.2. So you can go here, go to 3.2 worksheet, and click on that, and that will take you to a Google Drive folder with the handout for today's lesson. So a couple things to point out on your handout. You'll notice that there are no answers. They're blank answers. So as you're following along with us today, you'll get the answers that you can put into those, fill in those blanks with. So you also notice that as I am going through the handout on my screen, you'll see notes. For example, it says video ground school. If you are in our live class, you get to watch those videos on the big screen. But when I'm recording the classes to put them on the YouTube channel, I don't share those videos because I'm not sure about the copyright requirements. I'm not sure if they're videos that we're allowed to share or not. So I don't share those. I just include them in the live class. And but the handout, you can get that from our website. Follow along with us today. And without further ado, let's get started on today's lesson. So the first entry there in your handout says signs with white letters on a red background are mandatory instruction signs. Think of a stop sign. Red means stop. These signs mark holding positions on taxiways that intersect a runway or runways that intersect other runways, and ILS critical areas or areas where aircraft entry is prohibited. So these red signs, white letters on a red background, mean stop. Do not proceed unless you are certain you are supposed to. So for example, that top one there, 4 and 22, that is a runway hold position. Like we talked about last week, at a runway hold position, you cannot cross that line that's painted on the ground, the solid line, until ATC gives you explicit permission clearing you to pass that hold short. ILS critical area, you wouldn't want to, you want to stop before you taxi into that. You don't want to stop in the middle of that ILS critical area and block that landing instrument landing information that's being transmitted to airplanes that are airborne. And then obviously the no entry sign. You wouldn't want to taxi into an area with a no entry sign because you're not supposed to. So Number 2, location signs have yellow letters on a black background. They identify what taxiway or runway that the aircraft is located on, hence their name, location signs. Taxiways are identified with letters, while runways are identified with numbers. So, these two here, Bravo and 22. If you see this sign right here, Bravo, yellow letter, black background, location sign, that means you are located on taxiway Bravo. Same thing with 22. If you see that sign, you are located on runway 22. Some hold lines are painted on the surface. These include runway, taxiway, ILS critical areas, and the boundary between the movement and non-movement areas at towered airports. And then number 4, direction signs have black letters on a yellow background. These are the opposite of the location signs. So direction signs are black letters on a yellow background. Location is a yellow letter on a black background. So your direction signs, there will be an arrow pointing to the direction of a runway, taxiway, or other area of the airport, such as the terminal or FBO. So here we have our typical runway safety area boundary. We have ILS critical area boundary. Those are some information signs. Direction sign here. We have taxiway Juliet to the right. So here you are on taxiway Bravo. If you're on taxiway Bravo and you see this sign, that means taxiway Juliet is coming up on the right. And taxiway Lima would be a little bit more than a 90-degree turn back to your left there. MIL, this is a direction sign, so a military airplane would follow that direction sign. If it's an airport that's shared with civilian and military, you might see that sign. That sign might also say something like FBO, which stands for Fixed Base Operator. And they usually are the ones that provide you with your parking area, your fuel, your coffee, your bathroom areas, things like that. And then the taxiway ending marker, obviously, that means it's the end of the taxiway and you don't want to keep going. And then that direction sign array, if you're seeing this sign right here, that means that you are on taxiway Golf, and you have taxiway Lima to your right and taxiway Alpha to your left. All right, number 5. Vehicles are often used at airports. Special vehicle marking lanes define roadways that are not to be used by aircraft. 2 types of markings may be found. A, continuous white roadway edge stripes with a dashed center line. Looks like your everyday road you might drop down. And B, zipper-style white roadway edge stripes with a dashed center line. So if you're driving a vehicle on one of these roadways and not an airplane, the solid white line and the zippered white line have a little bit different meaning. This illustration here actually probably doesn't serve it very well, but the solid lines would mean just like when you're driving a car, you're not supposed to drive over a solid white line like that, like the shoulder of the road or whatever, if you have an emergency need to or whatever. But the solid white lines on the airport mean don't drive over that, and then the zippered white lines mean that the vehicles can leave the roadway or enter the roadway in those areas. So it would be more likely, instead of being in a grass area like this illustration shows, might be in front of a hangar with a maintenance area, a fueling area where fuel trucks frequent, things like that. So that's the difference in the white solid and the white zippered lines. Number 6, a yellow demarcation bar is painted to separate a displaced threshold from a blast pad, stopway, or taxiway that precedes the runway. So if you remember last week, these chevron markings, that is an overrun area. The arrows pointing to the white threshold here, that's the displaced threshold. Remember, your displaced threshold is available for taxi and takeoff, but not for landing. So if you're coming in from this direction to land, you'd have to land beyond the threshold. But if you were taxiing back here to use this full length of the runway for takeoff, you could taxi back and use that for takeoff. You could not, however, pass the demarcation bar and go into this overrun area. So that would be an area that you are not allowed to be on at all, whether you're taxiing, taking off, or landing. And here's your reading assignment from your PHAK, your Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge. Check that out and study for your Chapter 3 test. You get the information that we got today comes from that, and you can get some more in detail information by reading that reading assignment. All right, so that concludes lesson 3.2 on taxiway markings, and lesson 3.3 is coming up right now. So click on the next video to follow us on lesson 3.3.
Thank you for watching this lesson from MAPS, the Missionary, Airframe, and Powerplant School, a ministry of Texas Air Missions. If you found this training helpful, please subscribe, like, and share to help support the mission. To learn more about our ministry, visit flymaps.org. We look forward to having you join us for the next lesson in this series.